Alright, so one of the things that you're going to do pretty much the whole time is to work with classes. Maybe to change different stylings or elements, something very common. So with Vue.js, of course, we can do this in several different ways. So let me create something first we can work with. I'm going to go to the style and I'm going to create a class called element, right? So this one will have a color of white, maybe a background of black, and maybe some padding. Yeah, some padding 10 pixels. Right, and I'm gonna be adding a couple more classes, really simple ones. Maybe one that it's red with a background of red, of course, and maybe a blue one. So I'm gonna say dot blue, open and close, a background of blue, or something really simple. And one more, maybe green. I'm not sure I'm gonna use this one, but yeah, why not? So background and green. Okay, so really simple. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna create some element and we're gonna give this class, all right? Real simple. So I'm gonna create a div, and the class for this one, it's gonna be, of course, element. And I'm gonna put everything here so it's a little bit better. So it's gonna be element, and this one will have, this is my content, this is my content. Right, finally we are ready to start. So I'm gonna save it, and of course we get a black div with this is my content, So now, right now, of course, we are always discussing and talking about directives. The way we can, start playing with classes is through a directive. And if we go to the directives, we have the v-bind. So with v-bind, what we do, we take an attribute and we bind it to Vue.js, right? So if I wanted to bind a class, what we do is b, then bind, colon, and then of course the attribute class. So now everything is going to be handled by Vue.js, including the class. Now if I reload the application, it's not working. So this is not the way it works. Why? Well, we are just adding a class. Why not just saying class and that is it? Makes sense. So what we do with classes is that we say that we want to bind the class and we're going to do something else, right here. So this is the way to do it. Don't worry, I know it's a little bit confusing, but you're going to get it in a minute. So what I want to do, I want for Vue.js to add the red class to this element. So at the end, it's going to be the class element, space, and red. So the bind of class, the v-bind, what we need to use, it's going to be an object. Again, everything is JavaScript, so we need to use object. In this case, I want to add the attribute red, the class red. So I'm going to say red. Now, since this is an object, we need to pass a value. And in this case, it's going to be a Boolean. So I'm going to say true. Now, if I reload the application, now it's not black anymore. It maintains the, the padding and everything else, but now it's red. And if I do an inspect, we get element and then red. So, it's a little bit weird, but, this is the way it works. Now, of course, we can start playing with this. For example, if we mix what we know about directives, let's say I want to click this red button and I want to dynamically change whatever we have right here, right? I'm going to turn the red off or turn it on. So for example, I'm going to say v on and click. All right. So whenever I click this red square, I want to do something. So what I want to do is to change the red color to false. All right. So now I'm going to remove the true. Now, again, this is an object, so this is actually the value. It could be whatever you want. It doesn't matter. So what in this case, what I'm going to be passing is a property inside data. For example, I'm going to say red color. You're going to get it in a minute. Don't worry. So the red color, when the application starts, is going to be true. So now this true, it's equal to the red, which of course we know it's true. So if I reload the application, it's still red. If I say false and reload the application, it's going to be black, all right? It's because it's false. Now let's go back to red. Now whenever I click it, I want to change this red color, not the one on the top, this one. So I'm going to say, okay, so if the red color it's equal to true, I want to change it to false. And if it's false, we're going to change it to true. So I'm going to save the application. And if I click it, it goes back to black. And if I click it, it goes back to red, right? We are just toggling true and false of this property, which is the value of the red one. Again, this is just, different ways of dynamically change some classes. Now, since this is an object, of course, we can add as many things we want. For example, we have the color blue. Okay, so I'm going to go right here and say, okay, so the color, it's going to be blue. And the value for this one is going to be the blue color. So I'm going to add it, blue color. And by default, this one, it's going to be true. All right, so it's going to be true. And the value of blue is going to be blue color. So first, when the application starts, everything is going to be blue and the red is going to be turned off. It's because, of course, we have two classes and we are replacing one. So if I click it, it goes back to element, blue and red. And of course, we are not disabling the blue. But that's okay. I just wanted to show you this. You can pass as many classes you want right here because this is just an object. Now, another way to use this is to, maybe pass all the classes you want inside of the data, right? Makes sense, again, because it's an object. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to say colors, colors, plural, and the colors is going to be an object. So we have blue, which is true, and then we have red, which is true as well. Doesn't matter right now. Now, instead of just passing the object right here, what we do, we just make a reference to colors. So I'm going to say colors. And now, of course, if we change the on click with the red colors, it's not red color anymore. It's going to be colors, then red, just like this. And same thing right here. Let me fix it. There we go. So if I reload the page, this one is still blue. And if I click it, it's removing the red right here. We add and remove. So this still works. And this is actually a little bit better because we have a cleaner, a cleaner element right now. So we can also pass things like an array, not just an object. We can pass properties as an array because maybe you don't want all the properties in an object. Maybe you just want some of them, so you can do array, for example. Okay, I'm gonna go right here and delete this one because since we have an array, we cannot just say true or false. Because, what is the true of blue? What is the true of red? It's a little bit confusing. So inside of colors, I'm going to say that the blue class, and instead of saying true, false, I'm going to say that the blue class property equals to blue, which is the name of the class. That's the idea. I'm going to say comma, then red class. Let me do a red class, and the red class is going to be red. So now to pass the information right here, we can do an array, which is pass an array. And the first property is going to be colors, and then dot, and then blue class. And this will get the value of blue and put it right here. Same thing with the red class. Comma, then it's going to be colors, dot, and then the red class. Now if we reload the application, we get blue and red. That works really good. Okay, so with this approach, with the array approach, we have a few problems. I'm gonna delete the blue class because if not, the example is gonna be really big. I will need to do a lot of coding, and it just makes no sense. So what I want to do, just like we did before, I want to click the box right here. I want to click the box and toggle the color red. Toggle the class, just like we did before. So how can we do it? The problem is that we cannot do it. It's because with an array, we are just passing the name of the class, which is red. We don't have a true or false like we had with the object. So we kind of need to solve this problem a little bit in a weird way. For example, I'm gonna go to red class. I'm gonna say that this one has a name. And the name, of course, is the name of the class. And now we have a new attribute, which is going to be active. which is true or false, right? So now at the top, I'm gonna say, okay, if colors dot red class, the class it's active, and I'm gonna put this right here a little bit better. If it's active, then we want to show colors red class and the name of the class, which we know that it's gonna be red. And if not, you're not gonna do anything. So right here on the onClick, what we do is we check if active it's active. So if it is, we're gonna change it. If it's true, we're gonna change it back to false. And if it's false, we're gonna change it back to true. So I'm gonna reload the application, I click it, and the red goes away. And if I click it, we get the red. So, this is just pure logic. It's a really, really simple example. The problem that is that with arrays, doing this, it's a lot of coding. We could simplify this a little bit, but again, it's still a lot of coding, a lot of logic. So I would avoid doing this. I would just go and use an object. Makes a little bit more sense. It's not, it's not very reusable. So now we know we can, of course, dynamically add or remove classes. What happens if I want to add some inline stylings? Yeah, we can do it, of course. And again, we need to use bbind because we are doing binding the style, all right? The attribute style. So again, just like the bbind, this could be an object. So I'm going to say open and close and just pass an object. I'm going to be adding a font size. And remember that this is just JavaScript. So we need to do this and, not this. This is not CSS, it's JavaScript. So in this case, for the with the font size, I'm going to do 20 pixels. And then I'm going to do a comma because it's an object. And I'm going to add a border of, 5 pixels, then solid, and then, green. Makes sense? And if I reload the application, we kind of get it. It works. Now, using this just like this kind of makes no sense. Why not just adding this to the class or maybe a different spot? Because if you feed this as a entire object, you don't have access, really have access to each property. You can modify the whole object and maybe change it by a different object. So what I would do, I'm just going to remove this and I'm going to go below colors to the data. And I'm going to add one more property. So I'm going to say new style. If I do this, of course, let me go back. If I do this, I'm just adding a new property with all the data inside of here. So now instead of doing the object inside of the style, I'm going to just pass the property. And since this is an object, this is still going to work. Now the benefit of doing this is that now we have access to this property inside data, and we can modify it as much as we want. For example, right here we have the onClick. I'm gonna just make some space. Now, whenever you have an onClick, you can pass multiple things. In this case, I'm just passing one, right? And if I do comma, I can do another one. We can, chain this. So I'm gonna say new style dot, and I'm gonna access the font size. Right? The font size. And when I click it, the font size is going to be equal to 50 pixels instead of 20. So if I reload the application and I click it, we are changing the font size dynamically, right? So this is a much better approach than just putting all the object inside of the styles. All right, so this is it. Not much to do. I want to add one more little thing. So what if you want to add a class name directly or maybe change it directly? So let me just copy this code. I'm gonna copy and comment the code, and I'm gonna put it right here at the bottom because there's it's a lot of code and it's a little bit confusing. I'm gonna delete this. Same thing for the onClick, and I'm gonna remove this style. We don't need it anymore. Okay. So now what I want to do, I want to add a class and change it whenever we go to onClick, maybe swap it for a different one. And for example, if I go to data is just an object. So let me make this a little bit better because this is a little bit ugly. There we go. So I'm gonna say color style, right? So the color style of this one, by default, when the application loads, it's going to be blue. So in theory, if I go to color style and say that the bind of the class is color style, it's going to grab the blue and put it whenever the application loads. You know, pretty simple. So it's blue. Now what I want to do is to change this one to a red one. Really simple. I love this one to the end because it's the easiest one. So whenever we click it, I'm going to be accessing color style and say, okay, so now it's red. And that is it. I'm going to reload the application, and if I click it, we are just swapping one class for the other one. And we are not, you know, just activating this one or deactivating the other one. We are just changing the value of whatever we have on data. So you need to be careful with that, okay? All right, enough with stylings and classes. We're going to do a lot of this. So I'm not going to expand a lot on this one. So we can begin whenever we hit the practice projects, we will do a lot of stylings. All right, so let's go to the next one.